believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you
needs these guys. Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people, because that you know, everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out.
Right.
They're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see him compete.
Dana White recently unleashed a brutal critique of Jake Paul, tearing apart the concept of a boxing match between Mike Tyson and Paul. According to White, Jake has never been in it for the grit, the bruises, or the true spirit of boxing. Instead, from the start, Jake's game has been about raking in fame and cash, not by knocking opponents out, but by generating...
And that thing that you came out with today, nobody on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's...
viral content gold on YouTube, Tyson's promo videos, the overhyped face-offs, and all the surrounding drama weren't just byproducts, they were the main event. Jake's aim? To ride the hype train straight to the bank. Once a YouTuber, always a YouTuber, White might say. But Dana didn't just accuse Jake of chasing fame. He threw down serious allegations that made the whole affair feel like a courtroom drama.
Stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's standing in the middle with the warlock nose and the big warlock wart on his face, apparently that's his manager. And that guy used to be an accountant for me. And let's just say this, he no longer works for me, and I think he's a scumbag.
Beyond calling Jake one of the biggest frauds in fight sports, White suggested that Jake's boxing career is nothing more than a parade of gimmicks. He went even further, questioning whether Jake might be using steroids. True to his no-nonsense style, Dana's criticisms cut deep, calling Jake out as a hype chaser rather than a legitimate fighter, and leaving...
I didn't even know the guy was fighting. When Jake Paul lost to Fury, I haven't really paid attention to Jake Paul.
I have love for Jake too.
Fans with a fresh pile of reasons to question Jake's place in the sport. Dana White has more reason than most to call out Jake Paul. This is the man who transformed the UFC from a backyard brawl into a global, multi-billion-dollar empire, and his understanding of the fight game is second to none. When Dana
think that you can do it better than we do, you know, we're doing this whole thing wrong. You could treat the fighters better than we do. Knock yourself out. Go start your own business. It's easy to do. Go get the Warlock on it. The Warlock can get it started for you. What you and the Warlock should be focused on is your business.
Speaks. Even skeptics have to listen because he knows his stuff. His frustration with Jake, though, isn't just some personal beef, it's a deep-seated anger, as if Jake's antics have disrespected the entire sport that Dana helped build. In Dana's eyes, Jake is turning boxing into a spectacle solely for clicks and cash, stripping it of its true essence. To make his point even sharper, Dana doesn't just stop with Jake. He takes aim at Jake's manager, sarcastically nicknaming him the Warlock. According to Dana, this guy used to be an accountant for the UFC but couldn't cut it. Now, as Dana tells it, he's been reduced to playing errand boy in Jake's social media circus. The whole setup is dripping with mockery, as Dana paints the Warlock's downfall as a cautionary tale, someone who's desperately clinging to relevance in a world that's moved on from him.
He fights older people that are smaller. It's all the same.
If you thought Dana White's trash talk stopped there, think again. He cranked it up in true fight promoter fashion, issuing a bold challenge to Jake Paul that goes beyond words. Dana is calling for a steroid testing showdown, claiming Jake's biceps may be more than just the result of hard work and protein shakes. To prove he's serious and has nothing to hide himself, Dana even proposed a wild deal he'd submit to random cocaine tests for 10 years, all to prove his own clean record.
I'm ready to roll, buddy. I don't use cocaine. Do you use steroids? Let's do this, Jake.
This steroid versus cocaine face-off has quickly become a media spectacle, with headlines flying and social media buzzing. Suddenly, the Tyson-Jake Paul matchup isn't just about who's getting knocked out in the ring, it's now drenched in controversy, with accusations and clashing egos turning it into something even bigger. Dana's challenge isn't just trash talk, it's a public call for Jake to prove he's not just smoke and mirrors. The fight hype has now evolved, morphing from pure physicality into a showdown where reputations and integrity are on the line as much as knockouts. Amid the steroid...
Jake, you never responded to the challenge. You publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not. So I told you you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you use steroids. So I want to randomly steroid test.
Accusations and explosive hype, the drama surrounding this showdown only intensifies. Jake Paul has never shied away from a heated debate, especially one that stirs up controversy. Lately, he's leaned hard into his fighter pay. Crusade, painting himself as the noble warrior championing underpaid MMA athletes. Once known for pulling pranks and causing chaos on YouTube, Jake is now casting himself as the Robin Hood of the fight world. He frequently rattles off eye-catching numbers $600,000, which he claims is the average pay for top-tier UFC heavyweights, compared to the staggering $30 million he says heavyweight boxing champions rake in. According to Jake, it's an injustice, and naturally he positions himself as the only hero daring enough to call it out. But Dana White isn't buying it for a second. He fires back with sarcasm so sharp it might as well be a weapon, openly mocking Jake's supposed understanding of fighter pay and the business behind it.
You think he's not paying fighters fairly?
It's all greed and it's all going to fill Dana White's pockets.
Dana White blasted Jake Paul for accusing him of using cocaine, so White...
The whole situation is almost comical, as Dana refuses to let Jake play the savior without calling his motivations and credibility into question. Imagine Dana White, the mastermind who transformed the UFC into a global powerhouse, listening to a YouTuber lecture him about finances. Not happening. Dana's response to Jake Paul's crusade? He lays it out bluntly. If Jake thinks he knows so much, he should quit complaining and start his own MMA organization. Dana even issues a...
He didn't even know half the guys' fucking names on the card. And the list goes on and on with that guy.
Khabib, he retired. Do you think there's ever a chance that Khabib would come back and fight? Is there a number that you can say, Khabib, we got 20 million, we got 25 million?
I threw the numbers at him, trust me.
Sarcastic challenge, saying it's easy with a tone that drips with skepticism, daring Jake to put his millions where his mouth is. It's as if Dana's saying, let's see if you can handle the brutal reality of running a fight promotion. This isn't just playground banter, it's a clash between two vastly different worlds. On one side there's Dana White, who built the UFC into the gold standard of MMA, working with legends like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who left the sport undefeated. On the other there's Jake Paul, whose combat sports career has largely been a series of viral stunts against retired, often smaller, MMA fighters. Jake tries to frame Dana as a greedy tycoon profiting off underpaid...
He's making money. If you can...
You making real money, Dana, or are you making...
I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know what he's really making.
Athletes, but Dana isn't buying it. He sees Jake's act for what it is, calling him out as a self-serving fraud more interested in fame than real change. Jake Paul's so-called crusade for fighter pay gets even more ironic when you look at his own fight lineup. He's made millions boxing opponents like Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren retired fighters, past their prime and generally smaller than Jake. Yet he still brags about his earnings as if it makes him a champion of justice.
And was also considered a boxer, and he lost. So if you can keep fighting fucking 50-something-year-olds...
You don't think Tyson has a chance?
And making a living at it. I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody.
Dana White finds it laughable, and it does come off as hypocritical. If Jake truly wanted to make a difference, he'd probably be doing more than just talking. Now, with the added spectacle of a potential fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, things get even messier. Mike Tyson is a living legend, no question, but he's also nearly 60 long past his days as the unstoppable force who could knock a man out in seconds. Yet here he is, set to face Jake Paul, a fighter almost 3 decades...
Guys that box for a living and guys that are your age. How about that?
He says he wants to fight Canelo. I'm just saying what he... That's what he...
hear you. Then why is he not fighting Canelo?
Canelo, I don't think Canelo wants to waste his time.
Yeah.
Younger. The age gap alone is almost insulting, and critics aren't staying quiet. Boxing veteran Bernard Hopkins, who knows a thing or two about longevity in the sport, has been clear Jake and Tyson shouldn't even be in the same conversation. It's a matchup that raises eyebrows and further questions Jake's motives and commitment to true fighter welfare. Despite all the criticism, people can't resist the spectacle of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. It's like watching a train wreck. You can't look away from the idea of a 58-year-old Tyson landing one of his legendary punches on Jake Paul's face is the stuff of viral dreams. Former UFC fighter Brendan Schaub breaks down the possible outcomes if Jake knocks out Tyson. He'll be called a bully for beating up an older man. If Tyson knocks out Jake, it could be game over for Jake's boxing credibility. And the worst-case scenario, a dull decision win that leaves everyone, including Netflix, regretting the investment. Jake's preparation is creating buzz too. He's packed on muscle, moved up to heavyweight, and is aiming to look like a serious contender. But critics, led by Dana White, remain skeptical. Dana believes Jake's game is rigged as he consistently fights retired or undersized opponents. Despite all the muscle gains and Instagram-worthy training clips, people wonder if Jake can actually handle Tyson, even at Tyson's older age, or if this is just another chapter in Jake's endless campaign to stay relevant and keep the cash flowing. Ultimately, this isn't just a fight, it's a battle over what it means to have respect in the sport. Jake Paul wants to wear the hat of a crusader for fighter rights, but his actions tell a different story. Dana White isn't letting that slide, calling out every contradiction and exposing Jake as someone more interested in promoting his brand than the sport he claims to defend. This saga isn't just a clash of fists, it's a war of words, egos, and reputations.